Welcome everyone, the listeners and the viewers, depending upon which platform you're catching us on, to another episode of Denpulse. I'm Shubhra Sinha, VP Marketing at Denave. Denave is an AI-powered revenue acceleration company for B2B enterprises. And Denpulse is a podcast series by Denave, where in season 2, we are focusing on the rewired demand generation engine in the age of AI, automation, deep mind intelligence analytics, and a lot more. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Srikrishna Swaminathan, the co-founder and CEO at Factors.AI. Shri, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Shubhra. Very, very privileged and happy to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Shri, before we dive in, let's get our audiences to know us a little better. So
Sure.
tell us a bit about your journey, what led you to establish Factors.AI, and what problems does Factors.AI solve?
My journey is usual. Born and brought up in Chennai, college in Bangalore, then MBA in IIM Calcutta. After that, I was in banking for a couple of years before I joined a startup in Mobi, which was one of the first unicorns in India. I spent almost 7 years there as an executive running $100+ million P&L, working with the founders and the CEO there. That's when I got exposed to both marketing and, most importantly, the startup world as well, like digital marketing in the first place. So InMobi was one of the first mobile ad networks, right at the same time when even Android started. So they started parallelly with Android, but went east instead of west. Started with markets like China, Japan, Korea, and then expanded globally as well. And what we were able to see is like how digital marketing at the whole decade of 2010 to 2020, digital marketing basically exploded, right? From mobile ads marketing, general web marketing, digital ads, and revenue acceleration came from digital ad properties from the traditional sales marketing world, which was there. And that was very, very interesting. And then you started seeing a lot of problems within this as well. So there were one thing which you were able to fundamentally see is mobile and B2C are far more advanced compared to B2B world. In a sense,
Right.
like they catch up with a lot more trends faster because naturally like a lot more users and a lot more consumers which is there, and hence the data trends are much earlier. You also have
Yeah.
to build engineering systems like Hadoop and all to manage that large scale of data, and that data you can also use using AI and other this thing to actually target users better.
Right.
And what we were seeing at that point in time is like we were seeing attribution tools and measuring tools. Second, we were also doing the targeted signal based marketing and sales, which was happening in, let's say, gaming apps, or you would also see it in general B2C apps like Myntra or
Right.
Flipkart or the global apps, which was that, which we had a good ringside view because mobile games are huge and they have those power users, and how do they monetize and activate them. Similarly, with e-commerce users are also like a huge market, suddenly a lot of users coming, which set of users you want to take as an audience and then target them. Those innovations were coming, and there are a lot of tools and products which were built for that. And that gave us an idea like if this is happening in mobile and B2C world, this should eventually come into the B2B world also, because it's like the similar sets of data points, multiple data sources, and also the signals which happen would eventually start coming into the B2B world. So it would make sense for us to start building on the B2B side for the same similar kind of platforms. And that's when it gave us a startup idea. The InMobi founders were quite encouraging and also enthusiastic. They gave us some time to think about it. They also helped us with the first angel check, and later they also introduced us to
Wow.
multiple VCs. My
Nice.
co-founder Praveen also worked with me in InMobi for almost 7 years together. So that's where we know. And my other co-founder Aravind was my college classmate. He had been as an engineer in Google, later sold his first startup to Freshworks, which was Chattimity, which became the Fresh Chat product. So we
Right.
had good amount of startup experience, of working in large startups experience, and being in the digital marketing world. To be precise, SaaS plus digital marketing was something which was familiar to us, and it was easy kind of for us to actually getting startup. So while startup is very, very hard, at least we had the kind of initial momentum in terms of both finding an angel check or VCs at the pre-seed level, and also kind of a knowledge of the sector, and also the use cases was much better. So that helped us to actually at least survive better, I would say, the thing in a hard
Yeah, I
place.
think also, besides all of this, the understanding of the problem statement to its core, I'm sure that must have been a huge help as well because of all your past
Yeah.
experience. So, Thanks, Shri. That was great. It's just wonderful to learn about all that you've done and your journey. At my end, I've always been a. I started off as a communications person. I've been like a PR person. I've handled global communication mandates. At Denave, I ventured into the world of marketing, and I fell in love with the whole B2B marketing landscape. So I've been like a hands-on marketer, but because of my communications background, I think I'm just not able to. I'm also obsessed with storytelling. So I think, which is why I think there's a little bit of extra edge I feel that brings into a whole marketing game. But having said that, the whole marketing landscape is evolving, and I think we are all learning overall with all this Gen AI and automation and the whole tech scheme, how that is evolving. Um, just to set some context, and as we deep dive into the session, let's also talk about some of the emerging trends that we are seeing here right now. So, I think generating sales and closing deals has now, of course, become harder due to the changes in the market. Buyers are overwhelmed by bad sales experiences, and I think also the digital overload. Self service, self research is becoming an easy alternative. And so, in all of this, I think relevance and personalization aren't just strategies now, they are pretty much make or break kind of things. And signal engine, I think, is one piece of a modern buyer enablement journey.
Yeah.
So actually, there was this quote I was reading of Philip Kotler lately, which said that marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but about the stories you tell. And I thought, I've cracked it. But in this new age of Gen AI, tech,
Mhm.
automation, and the likes, it seems the focus is now totally bent towards data and insights. So, Shri, I want to ask you one question: is that how do you see these two elements, storytelling and data, they coming together in the age of AI-driven marketing?
Actually, pretty. Thanks for asking that question. And as you were saying, also, one thing is actually the need for storytellers and creative folks, or they have become far more powerful now than earlier.
Yeah,
Why is basically because it's like data was available, but data was available in multiple silos. You weren't able to track a lot of data. For example, you do an event, let's say a field marketing event, or you do go to an event or this thing, who all you met there, or like who all had come to your booth, how this
yeah,
thing, that data was might have been in a visiting card record book, might come into the CRM, but it'll still remain in the CRM, which is there.
mm,
Second is the data which is there, like who's coming to your website, who's reading your blogs, who's signing up for your newsletters, where also is in a separate silo. Who's coming into the website wasn't even known at all for quite some time, but who's even signing up for your
yeah,
newsletters and other the thing was in the email marketing tool, which is in a HubSpot or in a kind of a marketing automation tool, which is there. Third is like who's looking at your LinkedIn profiles, who's looking at your LinkedIn ads, who's looking at your organic LinkedIn posts, etc. was also a totally unknown data point, which was also there. Similarly, like customer marketing, as you mentioned, like who are the ones who are looking at your review sites? And self research, as you talked about, like who's actually looking at self research? There will always be research websites, Gartner was there, or like people who are looking, but who's actually looking at it so that you know in advance, like what's happening in the market? I think was also a separate data silo, totally unknown, which is there. And lastly, the PLG data points, which is like people want a trial, they don't want to actually kind of just say that I'll take a demo or I'll do a POC. They want to actually do a trial, a product-led growth models, which are coming in, which is similar to the B2Cification of the whole the things, like where like in early days, let's say in a cab or a Ola cabs or a Uber used to give free rides or even get this thing, getting people to start ordering the cabs and thing. The same thing is happening in the B2B SaaS world also now. The data structure points used to be in multiple points, and the only companies which were able to tell better stories, and you always make better stories with data, because once you have a good data or you get an insight, you can make a story about it and make a screenplay about it.
right,
So,
right,
just like for the lack of better analogy, look at it, let's say like a great filmmakers or authors and these things, like the stories are kind of pretty simple, whether it's a standard pattern, whether you see Mani Ratnam or anyone else who's doing. But the whole this thing is the fact of storytelling, the creativity, and how it comes. was available only for large companies because they were able to pull in Gartner and other data sources. They were able to pay for large databases like ZoomInfo plus TechCrunch plus so many other
Right.
databases. They were able to pay for CRM like Salesforce to record data, or they were able to employ an army of people to gather all this data, give it to the marketing team, and then the marketing team started actually building stories out of this.
Right.
Now, gathering this data, assembling all this data, and then giving you the data analysis underlying has become democratized.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is specifically needed is all you need is a great creative person in your side. If you have a great creative person, you can get all the data you want for him. Even for a very small company to this thing can start selling stories and start communicating about
Yeah.
the stories. And most importantly, now you can also feedback loop. That is, you can also distribute the stories very well, both through organic channels, podcasts, review sites. You have so many other forums to where newsletters and this thing where you can talk about the story back and this thing, and you can also see how people are reacting to the stories in real time. This
Right.
was something kind of like totally out of line 10 years back. Let's say an IBM used to do
Yeah, out of
something
line and out of reach. I think for the
out of reach
largest set
also.
of companies, it was pretty out of reach. There was a monopoly by a few players who could allow you to do certain things, but I think that's getting a little bit more democratized now.
No. But the problem here is also is like which companies are most creative. For
Yeah.
example, a company which has a very enthusiastic marketer or a great storyteller or like a founder led who's actually able to tell stories and communicate about it and other this thing have a huge power because they already know the insights and other this thing. They're able to create stories. Who are the people who are actually being very, very nimble and able to move with it rather than getting into the corporate hierarchy saying that, okay, this is with me. I'm doing product marketing. I don't do content marketing. I don't do social media marketing. All those silos are getting broken to saying that, okay, you have to be flexible, you have to be nimble, just like the way how a T20 era moved the whole. Earlier, you used to have a specialist wicket keeper. Now you need a wicket keeper who can actually also bat and really bat very, very well.
All round.
Same thing with
Yeah.
an all rounder. You can't have a bowler who can just be sitting outside and saying that I can't bat or something. You have to be an all
Yeah.
rounder. So the same thing also applies to now to marketing folks also. And whoever is nimble is getting a huge edge along with the creative storytelling.
Wow, Shri, I think you've touched upon so many points that I can go in all direction, but I'll just try to go step by step. I think there are multiple things to be touched upon. Let's also touch upon our focus for today, the
Yeah.
concept of dark funnel, as they call it. Now
Yeah.
that what you see in the sales and marketing funnel, there's a dark funnel outside it, the one that you can't see, and that's where the concept of signal based selling and catching signals comes into the whole scheme of things. So for our listeners and viewers, do you want to talk about what this approach is, or what is signal based selling, and what kind of signals are out there for marketers to leverage, especially B2B?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And actually, it touched upon a little bit of it, but fundamentally,
Yeah.
let's start from top of the funnel all the way to the bottom of the funnel, right? So one is the top of the funnel is the ad channels. So it can be like signals from your ad channel data, which is Google Ads, who's clicking on your ads, who's searching on which keyword data which is there, which campaigns are working, which campaigns are not working. Similarly, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a little bit more unique product, which is for B2B, because one, it's fundamentally like a social media platform, similar to what an Instagram is there in the B2C world. LinkedIn works on the B2B world. It's a
Right.
serendipitous discovery. It's not like Google, you search for with an intent and then you come to your website. In LinkedIn, people see ads as they scroll through the feed. Second is more than 1
Right.
billion users. And users are a total different persona profile. For example, your photo or the kind of things which you share on a Twitter or what you would share on an Instagram would be very different from what you would share on LinkedIn, because one,
Right.
you want to appear professional. Second, you are there to learn from your peers and professionals so that you can get ahead in your professional journey. Third, you also very, very clearly say these are my experiences, these are my skills, these are the strength items which we have. Plus also currently I'm working here, this is my title. You share all that data. So LinkedIn gives the power for you to say that, okay, if someone from this company liked your post, you know who's actually liking your post, who's showing that interest, why, and if they comment on it, you'll also know what kind of interest does it take. And you can also do ads where you can target, like I want to target companies which are in USA, let's say California only, based out of an Bay Area. And in that, I want to target companies which are in software and technology space with less than 500 employees and only CMO to VP marketing. These are the
Yeah.
titles which
You
I
can
want to
go
target.
as precise.
you can actually present. So LinkedIn gives you a lot of data, which is also there. And third data is also like you can do referral sites, emails, and other things. Who's clicking on your emails and coming back? Who's actually checking your referral sites and then coming back? That's the top of the funnel, one part of the top of the funnel data. Second is the website data, which is a
Yeah.
huge amount of first party data which you can gather. And now with technology, you can also, earlier website was looked at a user session level, which is the primary Google Analytics, which works very well in the B2C world. This is where the B2B differs. B2B, it's an account level journey. It's not a user level journey. Just like even if you're having this podcast or if you're having any conversation, it's not like you're not going to speak to one person. It's not a one single decision maker. There are executive sponsors, there are financial decision makers, there are analysts, there are users of the product. You have to make everyone come into the call or different points and touch points, touch them and this thing so that they get convinced in buying a product. And plus, they're also not buying the product for themselves, just like how you would buy a Myntra kind of a product where you go and you can buy a nice dress or a headphone or whatever it is. Here it is like you're buying for a company or you're buying for a team. So the decision making is longer. It's not like an
Yeah.
impulse based decision making. Decision making involves multiple user stakeholders or personas which are there. Third, it also involves multiple channels. You can hit them either on LinkedIn. So because the CEO might be available on LinkedIn, the person who's buying might be more available on a email or a call basis. The other person might be looking at the person who's actually searching for that solution would be available on a Google search. You have to touch them at multiple channels, including your blogs and organic data, case studies, which you are sharing over a period of time, which is there. And also this happens over a period of time. So website at a fundamental level becomes a huge part of first party data at a B2B level, because at an account you can say like there are so many users, each users have this kind of properties in terms of titles, etc., and they did these activities over a period of time, and you can track that completely on your website. So that gives you a huge amount of signals coming back. The most
Right.
important thing in
Right.
B2B is nobody randomly visits a B2B website. It's not like
Yeah.
a Twitter or a Netflix or a kind of a crick info. People are not just going to be there just for the sake of being there. Whoever comes takes time to look at either a Denave website or Factors.AI website. I know for sure that they are really looking forward to or understanding about what my solution does or what my value prop is or who's my customers, or at least like whether they want to have an intent buy. Of course, you can eliminate folks who are looking at your about us page or investors page or your
Right.
carriers page and other
Or
things. That's
figures
pretty,
and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that you can filter out very clearly. But who's look, I mean, nobody comes into a SaaS pricing page or looking at your, or come and check out your blog and spend 5 minutes on your blog on revenue acceleration, or would be spending time on our case study on LinkedIn campaign management or LinkedIn attribution, which is there. Because it's like if they're spending time on it, they're actually interested in it. So getting that signal is of huge value for B2B companies. So I touched upon the top of the funnel, which is channel data. Then the next is the website data. Both of these are first party data points, which is there. Second is you can also go a little more down the funnel, which is basically the marketing automation data, emails which you are sending, which emails are getting opened, which emails are getting clicked, which emails are getting reread. That data you get basically from the marketing automation tools, whether it's a Marketo or a HubSpot, etc. Then goes CRM data. There is a lead campaign object data where the entire account level information, like which account, who's the owner, what kind of activities have happened, have you actually met them in a earlier field event, or someone has shared the card in a, there was an investor introduction or something like that. What was it happening at an account level? You get from a CRM, and CRM is also completely first party. All I have combined is a completely first party data, which I'm talking about now. Then goes into the second party data, which is set, which is something like customer marketing has become very, very important in these days. Just like in B2C, if you're buying something in Amazon, you'll surely look for what are the number of reviews. Is it more than 2000 reviews? Okay, I think I can trust this particular SKU and variant. Even within
Right.
SKUs and within the same brand with Sony, you can say like some have only 300 reviews, some have 2000 reviews. You'll try and look at the one which is 2000 reviews. Second, you'll also see what kind of reviews, what's the range of reviews, how many are more than 4 star, how many are more than 5 star, etc. This same thing
Right.
is applicable now in B2B as well. There are large review platforms, which is also a kind of democratization where instead of just a Gartner or a large Nielsen or something, now you have the Capteras and the G2s of the world, which basically, and multiple more other guys, even by sector, we actually work with marketplaces which just talk about legal software only. It's not just general SaaS software, which is legal software. But just to give you some stats here, in G2 alone, there are almost 160,000 products listed
Wow.
with reviews. There are 2,500 categories. Along with
My
just
God.
CRM itself, there are almost like somewhere around 250 or 300 kind of different CRM products which are available. So which means that at spans of like you have so many options to choose from 160,000. Now the reviews also matter. What are customers
Yeah.
saying? Are they just a startup? Even if they are a startup, how many reviews do they have? Are they there for real? What is their pricing? What do other customers talk about them? What is happening? That becomes a very, very important part of the data also. And that's something which is what we call as second party data.
Yeah.
Third is the third party intent data, which is something like who's just viewing your ads or reading your social posts, which is on your
Mhm.
LinkedIn and other things. Similarly, this can also be the third party intent data, which comes from. So something like who's looking at articles related to your topic about revenue
Yeah.
acceleration or attribution or ABM marketing, etc. on,
Yeah. Or
let's say,
searching up your keywords.
searching for those keywords, which is generic in assessing, but this becomes a little bit of third party. So you have the first party data, layer over with the second party data, then the third party data for you to see data in multiple points for you to gather signals, which is that.
Right.
All this is part of the B2B journey, and this is something which is unique. I mean, and this is not something technology wise unique. For example, in B2C, you have the same tools like Braze or More Engage and others, where they'll say like, if you are looking at a white shirt, I would also suggest a black belt or something like that, or rules engines around this, or like let me gather the data from the product journeys data. So something like
Right.
Amplitude and others will be looking at like which are the cohort of users who are basically looking to the going to the next level in a particular game, or clicking multiple times on an add to cart. Let me take them and give them a special offer. Things like that will come. Now you are basically, but in a mobile app or a Myntra or a gaming app like Supercell or something, all this data resides in a single app.
Mm-hmm.
In B2B, it's multiple users spread over multiple touch points, right? From LinkedIn is a different touch point, G2 is a different touch point, your CRM is a different touch point, your email is a different touch point. You bring them all together. And also, naturally, B2B has also become something like, since it's an enterprise level sales, you go in for the best in class software for each and everything. For example,
Right.
you might still have Salesforce as a CRM, but you'd want to have a Marketo or a HubSpot as your marketing automation tool. You might be
Mm-hmm.
spending on Google ads, but you'll still significantly spend on LinkedIn because LinkedIn has sales navigator. They have the separate kind of the thing. Irrespective of whatever happened, you're not going to combine your website into an app like CRM app or Salesforce app or something. It's like apps become very popular with the Play Store and other this thing in the B2C world. Here you'll still have your website, you'll have your blogs, you'll have your own content, you'll have your case studies, etc. So the first party data which comes on your website also becomes interesting. So there are little differences, but the
Yeah.
conceptual of like ability to analyze all these signals together and then activating them based on use cases is a specific B2B, a general marketer's happy dream, which how they want to do.
No, absolutely. In a simple analogy, I would say it's like turning on the lights in a dark room. You have a little more view of who might just be interested in you, and not like shooting in the dark kind of a scenario. So, of course, I think about 6 to 8 or maybe 10 months ago, nobody was even talking about. I mean, I'm saying in the larger scheme of things, people were not really talking about signals and how now. I mean, the change is that everyone, right from top tier B2B companies to digitized smaller setups, are making a switch, or at least considering to add signal based approach to their GTM. And
Yeah.
you know so, and I think with platforms like Factors.AI, B2B demand generation companies like Denave, we are enabling businesses to navigate the dark funnel with I think more powered information, insights, and therefore the right action points of those.
Yeah.
um, Now, this brings us to how your solutions at Factors.AI complement Denave's offering. Denave is a revenue acceleration, demand generation company. So, and we work with enterprises to accelerate their demand generation. So can you elaborate on how together you help companies improve their B2B marketing strategies? While you've touched upon those from an intent standpoint, but if I was to specifically say that, how does Factors help companies like
Mhm.
Denave
Yeah.
master the B2B marketing strategies?
Yeah, I'll show you this thing. So it comes to the basics remain the same, right? Earlier, it used to be something like most companies will say like, let me have a list of accounts, which is what my ideal customer profile. These are the ones which I want to target. Let me create
Yeah.
an account list about this. And then let me gather data about that account list in terms of contact information, other data, workflows on this thing, and then implement workflows around that. Like push this data back into a LinkedIn ad sequence, push this data back into your CRM as a task list, give alerts on this set of data, or push this data even back into a, let's say, an email sequence, etc. And you build those kind of sequence. And all this had a lot of manual operations and other parts which has come in. What Factors.AI does is basically two parts. One is automatically bring together every signal which matters from an account or prospect buyer journey, and then combine it at each and every account level, score all each and every account, and then say which are the accounts which are most likely to become leads and prospects. So this is basically what we call as account intelligence, where you get a, like, while your addressable market or total addressable market or even your ICP account market can be 5,000, but the 500 of them are the signal addressable market. That is, these are the ones which are showing signals or intent to buy in some form. So this
Yeah.
gives marketers two options. One is like, how do I focus on this? If I have to get any customers, I have to go and get customers only from this first 500. So let me see how I can activate them. Second is, if I have to get more pipeline down the line so that it's a consistent pipeline, I have to make sure the remaining 4,500 also get activated in terms of signals from my side, either through ads or through content or through emails, so that they get activated. So that gives the two options. Now we come to the second thing. So the activation part of it. Earlier, as I mentioned, it's like people either will open up an email provider, then they'll start looking at like some contact email IDs, write a personalized email, and then send about it and other this thing, and also wait on a sequence, see who's opening that and this thing. This is a huge amount of manual effort. How do we automate some of this work through a kind of like automation or orchestration, as we call it? It's like autonomous orchestration, where like you identify which companies are actually showing intent and automatically orchestrate in terms of like getting the right contact persons within that company, identifying who they are, getting their email IDs and caller numbers, etc. From the email IDs, you can immediately put it into an email provider and start an automated email sequence. Second, you can also push this data back into a HubSpot or a call list, so that you can start running automated calls also for the system, so that to see who's picking up. Third, you can also take this data, push it back directly into your LinkedIn ads or your ABM ad sequence, so that you can run ads to the same set, which is
Right.
there. Now this automation comes. Where this basically helps is, earlier SDRs, if they are spending, let's say, 10 hours, 6 to 7 hours used to happen on one, filtering down a list or getting a list in the first place, and then running all these operations, which is that basically we remove this complete one. With our workflows, we basically makes SDRs almost 3x more efficient. That is, they can focus on selling, or marketers or even salespeople, they can focus on selling or creative selling, which is more important, while we take care of the whole data and filtering and the automated workflows part of it.
Yeah.
Second part where it becomes immediately efficient is, any sales guy looks for prioritization, right? It's like,
Right.
I have
Yeah.
100 companies to look for, and it's just
Who do
like
I call
they're like,
first? Yeah.
yeah,
Whom do I
and
call
they're
first?
natural hunters. They have some signals. It's like, okay, this guy has just recently joined this company. Maybe this guy would be looking for a tool, or like this company just recently got a Series B funding of $20 million.
Yeah.
Let me go and reach out to them. So they activate on signals just like any hunter would. And this thing, we basically one bring this to you at scale by combining all the signals and say like, this company is actually showing intent because of all these reasons. Why we are saying this company are showing, and you can also preset saying that give me a kind of like, whenever these kind of events happen, whenever this thing happens, I add a high weightage, give me an immediate alert, or activate these accounts and show me about those accounts automatically. While I mean, any human would have 8 hours of work and another 8 hours of some kind of entertainment and 8 hours of sleep. While you're sleeping, we actually are able to bring together all this data and say that these are the accounts, so that they can actually focus on selling rather than kind of trying to boil the ocean here.
No, absolutely. I think that that's extremely powerful, and also this kind of leverage and collaboration allows companies to do more with less. Especially, I think the small and medium enterprises who have limited resources to really work with. Now, speaking of SMEs, I'll now want to delve on the part that you touched upon previously, which is democratization of expertise, right? Overall, how this Gen AI, automation, and of course, AI
Intelligence.
in general sense, how it's creating a more level playing field for smaller or even mid-sized companies in the B2B marketing landscape. So do you want to touch upon that, Shri?
Oh
Do you want to
yes.
dive a little deeper? Yeah.
At a fundamental level, AI, just like it's like a new industrial revolution, right?
Yeah.
Earlier, it is something like we have weavers and we have made cotton and other this thing, and whoever is able to weave or whoever is near a city and who can buy a cloth will buy a cloth. Otherwise, it's like, and it's be dyed in a certain way, and then you have to go and get it, and you don't really use multiple clothes. The same thing also happens in the revolution in terms of manufacturing, ability to mass manufacture drugs, ability to mass manufacture automobiles, so that mobility, everything comes. The same thing, Gen AI and the whole AI revolution, which is happening now, thanks to multiple things coming together, because both the compute power, the cloud computing, which started coming in,
Yeah.
and now we have chips which can actually process data much better, algorithms which can understand the data and then build it. All that has come together now. And post 2020, we are in an era where like we can give back huge amount of time back to anyone back. So
Yeah.
any user, can be a marketer, can be a sales guy, can be this thing, they can actually have much more time to actually be more creative, better at their storytelling, better at their sales folks, so that they can actually generate a lot more better results. So
Yeah,
what's
they. I think we all have our own assistants now. Like
we have our
I
own assistants, or a kind of like we are kind of becoming into the next level of superhumans, right? Where like
yeah,
now I'm not, so very very simple thing, that is like I had a problem of like I have to take down, I have to have excellent Excel skills, go to one particular site, download this thing, do a pivot table analysis of a certain level, this thing, then combine to a certain list of accounts which is there, then hopefully then I have to start driving, looking through PDFs or any other thing, get all the email contact databases and other this thing, and then actually start either uploading it into a LinkedIn ads or start running email sequence. And
yeah,
email also, my capability of writing an email would be based on ability for my kind of like my
absolutely.
education in terms of making sure my grammar is very clear and right, making sure that the email comes out very well at each and every point where it's structured, it talks about all the use cases, while at the same time it's also succinct in a way where like the message comes across very very clearly.
Yeah.
This, and if I have to repeatedly
And
do
I
it,
think just to add on that, also my ability to differentiate it for different people, right?
yes,
So
differentiate it at different people, and this you have to do 15 to 20 times a day. For example, the
yeah,
work doesn't change, right? Earlier it used to be like 1,000 account lists which is there, you do it over the month only, so you can't, I mean, per day you can do only 20 accounts which is there, which means per week it's 100, per month maximum you can do is 400 at best for a very highly efficient person which you have. So if it's like only 400 from 1,000 account list which you can do, so for 1,000 you have to cover at least 2.5 months or 3 months. So a work used to take 3 months to reach out to 1,000 accounts, and you need to have a very very good guy at 20 accounts. There'll be at least 3 4 decision makers, so you have to send at least 60 emails per day, and each
yeah,
for each and every person, as you just
yeah,
mentioned, you have to make a very very clear email, and then you have to write about it in a very structured way, and each time you are running it. Now think about it, where like the ability, you don't need to go after 1,000, while this 1,000 is the overall list, first go after this 100. That's directly into my HubSpot every day in the morning when I actually look at it.
yeah,
Second, for each of these emails, these are the contact email IDs I automatically bring in. You don't need to do the extra effort of doing it, which will take another 10 minutes. So I'm going to shave off 10 minutes from your work. Third is like the email also, I automatically have taken the journey, I have written an AI written email for you here, and this is
yeah,
directly there in your inbox as a draft. Why don't you just go there, tweak it in the way you want to tweak it, check for grammar also automatically, and then send it across. And also,
right.
most importantly, make sure you'll get a signal back if they have opened it or read it, and you can also do the follow-up emails also without you doing it,
Hmm.
and other the thing. This, in a sense, what was earlier possible from a top 0.1 percentile level. For example, you need a very highly diligent person, highly process oriented person, and also someone who's really good at English and structuring the email and understand the concept to actually write this, which means it's a kind of a demand supply this thing. You will get only maybe the top 1 percentile people who will be able to do that, and you also have to pay a lot for them because they are actually going to get sales, and they're going to take 3 months to do it. Now you can do the same thing in 1 month with a person who doesn't have the same kind of education or the capabilities and the thing. He can be the top 5 percentile or the top 10 percentile level, and he can actually work on tweaks much better. And you can also track his entire activity end to end. This is like kind of like what one person can do now, you can actually do with 10 people. And what one person can do in 3 months, you can actually do it within 1 month with 10 people. So now you are actually becoming like 30x more efficient thanks to AI, thanks to the workflows, thanks to the compute power in terms of generating your own emails, and then you are building around it. And as with any creative process, while I can be creative and I can write 20 emails, Every day writing every 20 email, making it grammar check and every other check is quite impossible. If I have something to just make sure my grammar is always right and the part is right, I can actually focus on like tweaking it a little more because I get more time on my hand. Any
Yeah.
creative
How
process,
do I focus on subject matter expertise rather
yeah,
than how do I beautify it,
how
right?
do you beautify?
So,
That's one thing. But it also gives time for other things. For example, now you know the contact, signals has happened. Now you
yeah.
know like how do I hunt this better? Can I ask for, oh, I also know on LinkedIn that this person is connected to my CEO. Can I ask my CEO to do a referral also so that it can help me in the sales process? Oh, now I know that he's also liking this post. Let me also do an engagement with him on a social channel while I'm doing some other kind of engagement so that I can bring him down the funnel. All this happens out of the box for you. And it's actually a very exciting time to be a salesperson or a marketer at this point.
Absolutely. I think as a marketer, I have actually I used to handle communication mandate for Dell in my early days, and at that point they were running a campaign called "Do More with Less." While that's very old and all of that, but I think that campaign tagline kind of stuck with me. And that's something that I've always looked at because I think it's most relevant for marketers because you're all whichever ecosystem you're a part of. The point is, how do you do more with less? And I
Yeah.
think overall, the whole Gen AI wave, the automation wave, and how everything is getting joined together. Now the pieces of puzzles are like coming in together and making it more accessible for marketers and sales guys. It's kind of creating a level playing field, and it's allowing like the smaller or the mid-sized organizations to compete like head on in terms of strategies with the larger organizations. They've kind of transforming the way we approach marketing. And you're right, it's very very exciting times. I think they're learning new. I mean, it's not like today I haven't learned something or I'm doing the mundane. There's every day there's newer stuff. There are newer possibilities,
No
and
possibilities.
creativity is not going out of the window. I think we are getting more time now to use our creative selves as well, and see how we are able to do things differently rather than, because yeah, we are automating the mundane, right? So
Yeah.
if
No,
you're able to, yeah.
it's like this is like an insane power. One other thing which was actually pretty familiar is like we used to have global companies or corporates and unicorns, which is like 1,000 employees, at least minimum like 2,000 employees in this thing. Now there will be eras of companies which can be built like $1 billion companies can actually be built by a 10 or 20 or 100 member teams, which are there.
Hmm.
So what this means is you're going to have multiple $1 billion companies. You will have so much more economic activity or new ways to actually do things, and then you would have more tools around this thing. So as a overall, we are the Solos model on economics, where like technology actually not just drives growth, it actually accelerates growth in very different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. But while we are talking about all the pluses here and all the power it's giving us, it can't come without hurdles because we are professionals. There are no fairy tales here. So, what do you think are the challenges that are being thrown at marketers and sales, or with all these developments that are happening? What are the with the power that it's giving? What are the challenges that are getting thrown?
Oh, yes. I mean, at a very fundamental level, people are also kind of overusing certain things, right?
Yeah.
For example, like, yeah, I can tell you which companies are coming to your website. I can sort them. You can then basically reach out to them. You can send an automated email sequences. And you can also write automated emails and then plus emails. This thing, all this can be done with a touch of a button, warming up emails and all those things, making sure you don't over kind of send this thing. What is happening is AI generated emails, 100 emails per day,
Yeah.
150 emails per day per person and other the same. So what this eventually comes back into spamming. People stop
Yeah.
opening emails. People stop opening even LinkedIn messages because LinkedIn messages have started becoming AI generated.
I
LinkedIn
agree.
comments on social network has started becoming AI generated.
Yeah.
And
And this is just the start. I don't know
no,
where
this is
it's going
just
to
a
go.
start. This is just a start. This is like very few small percentage have even figured out like, oh, I can run drip sequences like this, or I
Yeah.
can start running content messages. I can scrap things better. While we have the tool to say that, okay, now you can actually use it to scrap review data, this thing, and then make a better decision. People are like, okay, yeah, all this is fine. Let me also even do my selling part or my
I leave,
creative part
yeah,
also.
I leave this part out because I don't have to do anything. I just have to run a sequence.
Run a sequence or something. So even that part, or even understanding what's happening, and then let's find if, because I have seen actual sales teams actually saying that, or even marketing teams. So it's like, okay, earlier I used to send 20 emails per day and I used to get one demo or something. Now I'm able to send 200 emails per day and still I get one or two demos. Still it's 2x is better, rather than actually just spamming it and seeing whether it's sustainable, which is there. What's also happening is the technology reacts back also the same way, where like there are huge spam filters. I think right after February, both Google and Outlook has come out with huge levels of spam filters. LinkedIn is running spam filters. And AI is also being used to identify who's spamming, who's using AI, who's using bot type behavior and other this thing. While you have autonomous agents and others to do certain this thing, but they're also looking back like, how do we avoid the bot type behavior at different points in time, etc. And that comes back. So in a sense of, instead of actually using kind of like technology to make you better in terms of your sales process, give you more time back for you in creative, they actually dropping the creative and just trying to bombard as much as possible. Because as for GPT-5, the emails are still reasonably decent, but they're not improving upon it. Or not just emails, or like, or your audiences, your scoring methodology. You can actually have the human mind on top of it to build context, build a better storytelling. Because the ability to copyright is totally a human thing. Just like how you said, like, do more with less, or any other
Yeah.
copyright or other thing, or creative campaign, or whatever you're doing will come from multiple this thing, and ability to actually see this data point. That is something which is a negative, which is
Yeah.
obviously there. And technology also looks back. Same thing also happens in creating bots for like just general sign-ups on your web pages, or like
Right.
people who to actually to calling. For example, there is a 30-second lag, but I know that companies are just running automated calls.
Yeah.
So earlier, you used to have a dialer and you used to have a list of numbers. You used to personally call up and ask, like, this is what it is. And for each person, you're going to say it's different. Now, what's is happening? You have 1,000 numbers, run it on a dialer,
And
whoever
predictive dialogue. So
predicted dialer,
choosing,
and goes on a rotatory schedule. Whoever, I mean, you keep running 10 calls parallelly. Whoever picks it up, you pick it up and run.
yeah.
Start messaging or start with this thing. Now it's even like automated kind of sales messages are also started coming. It's like, hey, I'm calling from Hills for this thing, which is totally an automated message. This kind of becomes an overuse, because eventually you're selling to other humans, and the ability to understand context is much better still at the human level. And that's something which needs to come by in the proper way. And that's the overuse of the technology which is there, which I think will get rectified along with any other search and other this thing.
well put together, Shri, and overcoming all this data overload and everything is going to be very, very crucial for hyper personalization. Also, because I think that's also a power that marketers today have. That I talk to you in the manner you want to be heard, or what you want to read, and if I have to drive that, yes, I can have deep mind sales intelligence, buyer intelligence through the leverage of Gen AI. But eventually, uh, with this data overload, I think there is also a scenario where this whole strategy might backfire because there is also
Yeah.
hallucination going on overall. And another challenge, I think, is the internal resistance to change as well. I think as part of
Mhm.
uh, a marketing setup, where we are trying to change the methodologies, look at more of these smart leverages, there is a huge change management which is required in companies. And the focus is on demonstrating the ROI of these new age powerful marketing solutions. So at Denave, we are currently also experimenting with a lot of these pilot programs where we are trying to set up clear goals and metrics with defined smart leverages, and we are seeing how these conversion rates are changing, but where to also draw the line, because eventually it's not about replacing the human ecosystem, it's about enabling the human ecosystem. So I think, of course, there are these hurdles, but
Yeah.
it starts with education, and it starts with
Yeah.
choosing the right partners who are going to enable that journey, right?
The
But
good part
I
is, at least in the technology ecosystem, is of a lesser of a threat, because,
yeah,
or lesser of a problem, because humans by nature adapt and adopt new things. We also are curious our own. It's like if something is like, if uh, anything new comes in, we have a tendency to initially feel worried about it, but eventually we'll adopt. But more importantly, thanks to the information spread and also social and other this thing, adoption has also become much faster. And for example, for an SBI to become as good as, let's say, a very large private sector bank or even a US kind of a bank or a Singapore bank in the terms of technology adoption took a longer time. But the next level, both in terms of mobile or UPI or tech stack and all, became much faster, which is that. The same thing will also happen in our AI this thing. While people took a long time to adopt to digital banking or digital world of this thing, let's say, even from manufacturing companies to even enterprise software companies and others to say that, okay, I want to be on the digital side, for them to
Yeah.
adopt digital sales and marketing practices would be much faster and much the thing. So that way, companies, you can actually build on top of it. And they're also kind of like, since they have seen one way of change, which is started with the Google and the search, which happened earlier in 20, 25 years back, the second wave of change will be much faster for them.
Right. So, we spoke about data overload, but then data overload leads to signal overload, right? There's just too much that we know about our prospects. What of that is really crucial? What of that needs better prioritization? Of course, there's a concept of lead scoring. There's also, those functionalities also there in Factors.AI. But I think as someone who was doing that with my team, I think it's also very difficult to figure out that which action is really important,
Mhm.
and how do you prioritize those. And I think with times we will have more and more digital signals getting captured, right?
Yeah.
Because you will have more and more areas to look at and figure out. So how would you avoid signal overload?
Yeah. No, that's a pretty important question. That's where the human part also comes in. Just like with any creative process, humans have an instinct on building hypotheses. For example, just like any good hunter or something, we'll say like when users actually look at this review page and this particular blog of mine, I think it's a higher intent. When people see ads on this particular days or something, or like when they come through this particular search keyword, or they have opened my emails or my some other referral point or other this thing, then I think there is a higher intent which is there. And this is something where the marketer or the company says that, okay, when these actions happen, actually it's good. For example, there can also be a lot of users who will be reading a general blog which should have been written for clickbait or general lot of SEO traffic, but people will know how to discount it while they'll have to do it. And that comes from the actually human. So that's where the human added weights also come in. So while automatically with supervised learning models, you can actually say that we see a lot of signals, this is showing intent. You can start reducing or increasing weights of different signals. That way, it reduces the signal overload. It also brings the human factor. And most importantly, it also helps humans to start doing hypothesis or A/B testing around this. I feel this works. Let's create an audience about this, then start running campaigns for this audience, while another audience will be a different hypothesis or a scoring methodology. Let's run campaigns around it, and also we can automatically see which one performs better.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you can actually beta test your or A/B test your whole signals itself, and you would also be able to see which is working, which is not working, and then you can also prioritize on activating those signals better. This is where the human part about like how do we set context or like understand to, or make that context more relevant, that comes into place. And that's pretty much available in tools like Factors.AI as well, where you can set your own custom weights and other thing. And we actually insist on the human intervention here. Without the human intervention, the creative process of both marketing and sales is not there.
Yeah, yeah,
Technology is there to basically create workflows to give back time for more creative process.
that is correct. So let's talk about the cookie crumbling now.
Yeah.
Uh, so of course, another major trend that's
Mhm.
that all B2B marketers are now worried about, or figuring out, the rise of the cookie-less world. With stricter privacy regulations and phasing out of third-party cookies, how can we continue to personalize experiences? Of course, it creates an opportunity for AI to shine for sure, but it also kind of puts a little bit of threat out there. Marketers definitely need to find newer ways to understand their audience. So, what's your thought on that, Shri?
My view is there's enough first party and second party data.
Hmm.
Third party data, generated or collected without consent has to go. It's in any ways this intrusion which is there, and that what generates to a lot of non-personalized messages also.
Right.
With the aid of third-party data, people stop using first-party data for a very long time, and now that is coming back to first-party data. Second, this regulation is going to be universal, so it's like just like any standard regulation where like India's Srikrishna Commission is also going to come soon, end of this year. It's going to be as strict or even more than GDPR. US also is like pretty strict on GDPR as well, and GDPR
Yeah.
Europe is also there. And cookies, even from across the board, from companies like Facebook dropped it last or 2 years back, then Google dropped it. First, it was initially there was a little bit of a flux, and the first initial responders are more the ad channel companies. Like, our revenue goes down, but Facebook came back now. It's like the recent profit, like what $12 billion of profit last quarter, which is
Mhm.
that. So with using first party data and other thing, they're able to build models to do personalization. So earlier, Instagram used to depend on third-party data for better personalization. Now actually comes down with the first-party data itself, which they're able to do it. And same thing would happen with B2B advertising as well. And with a lot of first-party data, you can actually build. As I said, the first part, your website has so much of a treasure trove of information. Who's seeing what, how many users are seeing, where they are coming from, which keywords did they come originate from, how much time they are spending on different kinds of channels. And also, the greatest thing about B2B is nobody is just coming in randomly. He's coming with some intent. You can nurture them in multiple different points in time. You can add the sales marketing alignment around this, along with the personal touches or the creativity to actually accelerate and close deals faster, which is exactly what Denave also solves for.
Right. So, in all of this, with all the superhuman powers that we now have, I mean, that's an inference I'm taking away from this entire conversation. Uh, what are the key metrics that B2B marketers should track when measuring the success of their AI-powered marketing campaigns, as per you?
So going beyond the standard pipeline metrics, such as like number of leads, pipeline generated, or pipeline revenue numbers, and also with the kind of revenue numbers which are created at a fundamental level, what they need to look at time. What is
Hmm.
the lead cycle coming to? Earlier,
Yeah.
I was able to generate X number of leads per month. Now, are you able to generate the same number of leads at a lesser time? Second, earlier closure to one, that is like time to company visited your web page and other this thing to closure used to take 4 months. Have I been able to actually reduce it with the superhuman, where like in terms of like identifying signals, and are we able to accelerate deals faster? Revenue acceleration metrics are more fundamental in terms of this thing. Third metric which also comes together here is like, are we able to do it efficiently? For example, earlier you used to spend X dollars on LinkedIn or into Google in the thing, spray and pray campaigns which are there, and how much were you able to generate in terms of pipeline and revenue? Now, are you able to do the same X dollars and generate more about it? Or the same?
Yeah.
Same thing goes to also with non-traditional things such as SDRs and content. Earlier, you used to generate so much content. Which content is actually working? Which content is not working? Which content is showing intent to buy? Which content is not showing intent to buy? How do you differentiate that so that you can focus your content on the right things, and you can bring back, you can have better output in terms of your content and organic generation, which becomes more part of it. Same thing with your SDRs. Earlier, you need to have 5 SDRs and you are reaching out to 1,000 accounts. Now, with the same 5 SDRs, are you able to reach out to 1,500 accounts?
Yeah.
So what are the second level or second order efficiency metrics which comes this thing? Third, most importantly, is like, are you getting your kind of the most important accounts or most intent accounts into the funnel first? For
Mm.
example, sales happens in general in terms of like ad hoc manner, where like someone whom you might not really want to be an ICP, or maybe even lower down the priority in terms of conversion account, might still convert at this point in time. You might make some concessions and you might not actually convert them better. What will do is like it'll add more pressure on your customer success team, on your product team to make customizations and other things. On the other hand, are you able to focus on the right set of accounts firstly itself and then convert them? So the ideal customer profile, and also what would basically mean like the least effort or the highest gross margin outcomes, are you able to actually or even the lowest churn accounts are the thing, are you able to convert them better and faster? That becomes a huge kind of a next level metric also, which most companies need to see in the signal led era. And
Right.
broadly, if you are looking at these things, all this feeds back into more revenue and pipeline or accelerated revenue and pipeline. So, which is anyways is a fundamental metric, but you can see these metrics improving while along with the symptomatic metrics of the other parts also.
Absolutely. I think very well touched upon. So, of course, the hero pipeline, cost per acquisition, I think they are still as relevant as ever. It's just that what all you consider as, to calculate those in terms of time, efficiencies, productivity, even cost on content generation and things like that, those are going to become very important. And yes, very well spoken about the gestation period from different stages. Are we moving faster on those? Are the conversions improving? And so on and so forth. So, thank you, Shri. I think you've given us so many valuable insights, and it was a really fun conversation. It's just obviously always, like I said, it's a learning phase for all of us. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate that you pulled out time from your daily schedule and you came for this one. So thanks a ton about that. But just for our listeners and viewers, to end it on a lighter note, I just wanted to like add a little bit of a fun element. So,
Yeah.
so I have a fun question for you.
Sure.
Little marketing humor can just lighten up stuff a
Yeah.
little bit. So, what's the best marketing joke that you've ever heard?
Actually, it was one of my friends who went to MIT, physics PhD, and all those things. And we were thinking, hopefully, he'll get a Nobel Prize and other things. So, and he quoted something back to me. And he eventually joined Google, and then he's in other thing. It's like the while the best minds of maybe the 1930s were trying to solve for quantum mechanics and how the universe evolved or what happened to the stars and other this thing, the best minds maybe of the current generation are working on how to make someone click on a particular ad or open an email which is there. So that's the current large problem which people are trying to solve for, and people are getting in. So it was in a sense it's basically like a lot of maybe marketing and both the email marketing or the b2b marketing or the digital ads marketing. Digital marketing as a whole is basically attracting a lot of top talent in trying to make people figure out how to click. So that's
Yeah, quite an irony.
quite an irony in terms of solving for cancer or anything like a new vaccine or energy or something of that sort, or even saying this thing. Okay, how to get someone to click, and that's actually happening.
There are people who are saving lives. We're figuring out how do we make people click
It's
an ad.
happening, and a lot of the my school classmates or college classmates who ended up with physics PhDs or other this thing are actually data scientists in e-commerce companies or in ads companies.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a great way to tell them that they need to do better with their lives.
They need to do better than life. Hopefully.
Thank you, Shri. You definitely lightened it up for sure. Thank you so much, Shri, once again. And I thank our listeners and our viewers for joining us today. It was a great session on rewiring the whole demand generation ecosystem. Stay tuned for the next part. Thank you, Shri.
Thanks a lot, Shubhra. Great conversation, and thanks a lot for